I'd like to open this meeting, Polk County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's April 28th. All commissioners are present. Some of us are a little more tanned than others. But please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up is comments not on this agenda. Or didn't you see the one person thought might have a comment? Just sat down. So next up, approval of agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Approval of minutes from March 31st, 2026.
It was supposed to be last week. Sorry, so whatever, what was last Tuesday? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Always back.
Tuesday, April 21st.
April 21st.
Those are the correct ones in the folder, so.
Yeah.
2026. Okay.
First.
So let's reword that. Approval for the minutes of April 21st, 2026.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And that brings us community mediation introduction. Mary Mo, please join us up here.
Thank you for having me. Mary Mull, as Commissioner Mordhorst said. So you may remember somebody in this role before me, Ken Braun, slightly taller and also male and a little older. But I moved into the position just about 3 months ago as Executive Director of Community Mediation Services. I've been doing mediation for about 1.5 years. I really like it. Conflict is something that I don't like in my personal life, but I like it a lot, helping other people solve their conflicts. So you probably already are a little bit familiar with community mediation services, but I can just remind you of what we do. So we are a nonprofit. We are a confidential, voluntary, and free service to any community members in Polk County. So we serve individuals, we serve organizations if they have conflict that they need help with, agencies, families. We want to get to people before their conflicts have escalated and they need outside sources like the police or juvenile department or someone coming in and imposing or a judge imposing rules. We want to try to get the community members to come together whenever possible. So we can do housing, so eviction or eviction avoidance, or if there's a manufactured home park where there are standards, we can help people have conversations so that they get to say the things they need to say and hear the things that they need to hear and figure out how they want to go moving forward. It's a lot more room for conversation and humanity, which I think is needed. And we're not the best at having difficult conversations at any point in time, but also maybe a little bit more now. So third-party neutral mediators can be really helpful and people can feel really relieved when they don't feel like they have the resources and the tools to have these difficult conversations. So we do neighborhood disputes, we do restorative dialogues. Like I said, we do manufactured home park or landlord-tenant. Yeah, that's what we do. So that is where we are. Our services, obviously, they're cost effective. They're free to the participants. And if stuff isn't going to the court or if the sheriff isn't getting the same repeat call because this neighbor's dog is barking and they need the dog to stop barking, and also that's not necessarily something that the sheriff can do something about. And there are specific, code enforcement and rules around that. And then people are talking rights and the sheriff is being asked to come in again and again where there might not actually be a place for that. Having a conversation and figuring out what creative solutions can we come to is actually can be a much more effective way of stopping those calls to the sheriff and also resolving the conflict for the people. Yeah, and then it can support housing stability. So if there is an eviction, we can help people come to the conversation. Maybe there is a payment plan that needs to be had, but the people don't feel like they have the tools to actually have that conversation. And maybe their landlord has been calling them and sending notices and they're just kind of hoping it goes away. It doesn't go away. But we can help them have a conversation around it and what could you actually do to right the situation so that you aren't evicted. So we can actually help with housing stability, which helps both obviously the landlord if they can get some kind of money, or if the eviction can be, if the move out date can be something that they've agreed upon, it helps the landlord. And then it also helps the tenant that they aren't just out on the street and it's because they just ignored a problem that kept rolling over. Yeah, so my big thing that I believe is that people want to be in right relationship. They just don't necessarily know how. And so we come in and we help them show that they do actually have the tools, and we empower them to come to their own solutions. So that's what we do. I guess mostly I'm here to introduce myself, but also if you all have complaints that you get all the time from your constituents, or if you have ideas for getting us out there more and more, people often when they call, they say, oh, I never heard of you, and so just told me to try you before I went the escalated way. But if there are places for...
So Mary, I know you're taking Kane Brown's place, who's been doing this for years and years and years, and everybody knows it. So can you tell us about your efforts in getting out and who you've met with? Because I know you've been doing an amazing job of outreach, trying to promote the mediation. If you could share with us where you've been and all you've spoken with.
Sure. I wish I had written down the list. So I've met with Dallas School District, and I'm working on meeting with Central and also Perrydale as well. I've met with Independence Police Department, and I'm working with meeting the other police departments as well to get in there. I am trying to get more volunteers because we are a volunteer-run program, and that's the idea, is that the community comes together. So I've met with Willamina Kiwanis. I'm working on Dallas Rotary. I've met with Monmouth Lions Club. There's a whole list of people that I met with, and I don't know if you can tell, but I actually don't like talking in front of people. So it has been the Dallas Retirement Village, and some of these groups I'm looking more for volunteers, and some I'm looking more for they might have actual conflicts. So obviously a retirement village, there are instances where you're living together. It's the same. It's the neighbor to neighbor, right? With a Rotary, it might be that they're a little bit more interested in volunteering, but also conflict is everywhere. I've met with Dallas leadership and others.
Any questions, guys?
A couple of questions. So, in my experience in these roles, both at the city and the county, oftentimes citizens will ask us to resolve civil disputes. So it's great to have a service like yours, but I'm curious where your referrals are coming from mostly. Is it coming from law enforcement or code enforcement for the neighbor disputes? And then for the eviction disputes, is that coming from the circuit court mostly, or is that being initiated by landlords?
It's mostly coming from manufactured home parks right now. So we have a relationship with MMCRC, which that acronym stands for something. Manufactured community something resources, or something like that. So that's usually where we get them. We are trying to get more into the courts, but we don't currently have that. So I'm working to get in front of Judge Hill and see how we can get actually referrals from the court after people have filed, but before the eviction has actually gone through. They do that in Marion County, and I've experienced it, and it works well. So that is something that we're looking into. But as it currently stands, most of our our eviction and our landlord tenant comes from the manufactured home parks. And as far as the neighborhood, it's a mixture, but it is often code enforcement that somebody is wanting code enforcement to do something that they can't do, and they say, well, maybe try mediation before we do the thing that we also can't do. And so then that's where it comes from. We also get, so we do restorative dialogues when a harm has been caused, and we get referrals from the juvenile department for that. And every once in a while, there could be an adult case, but usually it's juvenile department.
One suggestion, in addition to courts for housing or eviction, our family and community outreach department hosts a couple of meetings. One is, well, they facilitate a rent well program for tenants to establish good rental history and to be successful as renters. And then also periodic landlord luncheons where we convene landlords to help them navigate, certain tenant needs that might be temporary. They just need to get back on their feet. But that's another good space to introduce yourself, I think, for all the private landlords, because one of our goals is to keep those landlords renting. We need those units. So that might be a space where you could facilitate relationship and future referrals. Just a suggestion. But
Okay. And would that be Brent DeMo?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And do you have any sense of volume that your organization handles in a given period of time?
So we are currently in a lull, which is why we anyways want to get our name out more and more. I would say as it currently stands, we probably get less than 100 cases in a year. And our volunteer pool is also low. So that's where and I know 100% every time I meet with a group, I say, no offense to Polk County, there is conflict in this county. I know it. And Lyle has said the same thing, that once this blows up, it's going to blow up, because when you get someone on the phone, they 100% are, this is a free service and this is super cool. And I had no idea this existed. So once people know it exists en masse, I think it's actually going to be big.
Yeah.
So, but currently we're in a lull, and I'm trying to get us out there more.
Okay. So you have volunteers ready, but you have some capacity that you would.
We have some capacity. We don't have a ton of volunteers, but Neighbor to Neighbor, which is in Marion County, they have volunteered their volunteers if it explodes and we're not quite ready. We have myself, I can do mediations, and then 2 other volunteers. So it's minimal. But Marion County has said that they are gonna loan, and it's kind of the chicken before the egg, or which came first, the chicken or the egg. We need more volunteers. We need more cases. If we get more volunteers, there are no cases, or not very many cases. If we get more cases, there aren't very many volunteers. So I'm also navigating that.
Okay. It just occurred to me too, you may want to get in touch with Lieutenant Biddick. He's retiring from his jail commander, and he's going to do some code enforcement for the county. So he might be, I think those referrals would be good too, because oftentimes, as you said, code enforcement or the city or government agencies don't really have a role in a neighbor dispute. But we do, as electeds, want people to find resolution. It's not always through our mechanisms, but
Right.
I think, just in terms of referring to you. And then that was my other question. If I wanted to refer somebody to you, should I just send them the website, send them?
Yeah, we have a website. I also have business cards and brochures. I am working on, I have designed the magnets, and I'm going to purchase them and then go around to different banks and things like that. I met with, oh shoot, what's her name? I can't remember. I met with somebody who had this great idea about putting magnets in businesses that are just free and just exist there. And if somebody wanted to pick up a free magnet and throw it on their fridge, and then suddenly they're in conflict. So it would have the information, and that's something that I feel like is really quick, easy, and
They just call or.
They just call and they tell us what the situation is, and we tell them if it's appropriate for mediation. but we do have brochures and I have business cards that I can give to you all, that I also am working to get out a little bit more.
Thanks so much.
What was, Lieutenant, can you spell his last name? Bedick?
Vidic.
Bittick.
Bittick. Thank you.
I have questions now.
Please.
Yes. What's your role? What's your title?
Executive Director.
Okay, so you're top of the food chain.
That's true, and it's a one-person food chain, but yes.
Well, it's evolved a lot in the last 2 years,
Mhm.
maybe just the last year. I've had a lot of challenges with the organization and who's in charge, especially of the banking. And so I'm curious if you know what your finances actually look like yet.
Meaning,
What's your revenues and what's your budget and so forth. So that's always been a challenge in the past, is knowing, who's in charge of it. And I know Ken was. But I guess that's the question, is, do you know where you are financially? And I'm guessing with the decline in volunteers and the changeover and decline in cases, that probably means a decline in revenues probably.
well, our revenue is grant funded, so the case volume doesn't really impact the revenue. It's if our funders decide that they can't fund us in the same way that they used to. So as far as the budget goes, an exact number, I couldn't give you. It's mostly my salary, so me being in the office, able to answer phones when they come in. Because of course our volunteers aren't getting paid. Our rent space is donated space, so we're not actually paying for that. And then we have minimal cell phone, internet, telephone sort of.
So nothing's changed there.
Nothing's changed there. The main expense is our salary. Our largest grant that we get comes from Resolution Oregon, which is from the University of Oregon School of Law. And they are in the works trying to figure out exactly what our funding will be in the future. Right now, it's the same as it was, which largely covers my salary. It doesn't quite cover my salary, but it is close. And the state has less money, and it is possible that it's going to be less. But we have hired he doesn't call himself a lobbyist, he calls himself an advocate, but he's actually working to increase what we're getting from the state. And that's something that he believes is possible. And so folks within this Resolutions Oregon, which is kind of a conglomerate of all the dispute resolution centers in Oregon, we're working to meet with legislators and make sure that our funding is secure to keep that going. We also get obviously a grant from the county, which it sounds like will be less than it has been in the past. We were just recently awarded a grant from the Oregon Community Foundation Fund, which is very exciting. And so that's going to help secure our funding for this year. So I actually think this year we're okay. As far as giving you exact numbers with the budget and what's coming in, I can't give you that today.
But could you send us that, please?
Sure.
Because again, we've just been through a budget process and you weren't here. And I would like to see what your current revenues are, what your expenses are. Again, because of the fact that we're engaged in a funding process here. And again, I think it's important to know that, you are a nonprofit organization that lives by grants and donations. And it's important to know, again, I see, some potential danger here for your organization with what you're saying. Your caseload is down, your volunteers are down, and you're obviously putting in effort to try and bring that back up again. But hopefully we're not in a place where a lot of nonprofits are, creating a situation so that they can justify their existence. I know that's not the case for community mediation, but again, it's like you're almost starting from scratch here. You're rebuilding the organization, so to speak. And so I'd like to know where you are financially at this point in time.
Okay.
So, and Ken, if I said that to him, he'd say, yep, he'd have it. So that should be something you can produce every year when you're asking people for funding. So hopefully you have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I have the fun little profit and loss. Lyle gets to see it every month, but I can send that over, sure.
And what's your, I mean, besides knocking on doors and going to different meetings, is that the only outreach plan that you have? Other than, I heard your magnet idea, but no advertising, so to speak.
Do you have recommendations?
Oh, I'm sure I would. I'm not involved in your board, so I'm just curious about whether or not you're doing something besides word of mouth or, I mean, maybe that's all that's ever been done.
That was the method that I was trying, was word of mouth. I am always open to suggestions, and but I was trying to meet with different community members and then follow up with them. And every time I go to a meeting, they always sound really excited about the cases. So maintaining those relationships. And the method that I'm trying is to focus on key relationships and really build those. And then as those have built, move on to new ones. So it's not just, I met with them once, they liked us, but then they forgot about us a month later, because that's what people do, right? They put the business card away and then they never look at it again and they forget that it exists. So that is my main method. As far as advertising goes, I have, although this is something that I'm not overly practiced at, I have built a Facebook and an Instagram page, and I'm trying to get that out there and follow, which is so foreign to me, but follow community members and organizations and businesses in Polk County. And then I've been posting conflict tips, and this is, these are what our services are. So that is a fun, free kind of advertising way that I'm trying to go for.
That's useful. There's a lot of community pages in Polk County on Facebook, for example. And I mean, lots of people depend on those community pages for peer-to-peer information. So I think that's definitely a place that you should monitor and be engaged in. Again, to me, it's like any campaign, whether it's a commissioner campaign or a political campaign, I would meant to say, or, a campaign for funding. Social media is critical. And I think people pay a lot more attention to social media than they do print ads, for example. So that would be my suggestion as well.
Yeah.
Continue to let the community know. I mean, these individual groups you're talking to, say, yep, take note. And it goes in the Rolodex, if you will.
Yes.
But it's important, I think, to let people know that there is a service out there. If they get tangled up with something that they just don't know how to resolve, that there is help.
Right.
So,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
And as you know, Ken Braun was just the face of community mediation. So when they had it, they called Ken. So she's kept the same phone number, same office number. So when they call Ken, now it's Mary's voice on the other end of the line. So we're still getting some of those connections, but it's just an effort of getting it out. So,
Yeah, well, it may feel really comfortable to you that they know, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew who Ken Braun was, but I'd never think of him.
And that's the challenge. That's
Yeah.
why I was pointing out she's been.
It's like, educating legislators. You can't just do it once and think you've done it. You have to do it every single year. And you have to keep letting the community know you exist, and because they just don't know. They just don't remember that.
Absolutely. And something that actually I find comfort in, because I'm not the type of person who likes, like I said, standing in front of people or sitting in front of people, is that I am selling community mediation services. So my name is Mary, but if nobody remembers my name, that's okay. The thing that I am selling, the process that I really believe in, is community mediation services. And I know Ken has done and continues to do a lot of work in this community, and people, they knew Ken. So I just, I want people to know community mediation services. I don't care if they remember my name specifically, because that's the service I believe in.
Well, you'll get there though, where people will just associate your face and your name with
Right.
mediation. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
It was posted.
Yeah, thank you all.
Keep pushing on getting with the judge.
Yes, that's Matt is working on getting that scheduled.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank
Great
you.
job. Any unlisted items today?
No, sir.
Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.
to get you guys out early.